Hello and welcome to Can I Beat Subnautica with only a Seaglide for transport? The rules for this run are simple. I can only use a Seaglide to move around the map. No Seamoth, no Prawn Suit, no Cyclops. And that's it for the introduction. Let's get on with the run, shall we? After crashing, it's time to begin exploring this alien world. We started by crafting a survival knife, for stabbing purposes of course. Then a scanner for scanning purposes I guess. Followed by the repair tool because I'm scared of the dark and it's far too dark in here. And then we built the habitat builder, as I plan on making a lot of little oxygen bases. As we head deeper into the depths of this world, I'll need some way to get oxygen. And we finally made the most important item for this entire run, the trusty Seaglide. It was then time to make the rebreather, just so I could survive underwater for a few more seconds at least. Such a good item. Gathering all the materials for this equipment took so long that it was time to watch the fireworks. This unfortunately meant that now I also couldn't go close to the Aurora without a radiation suit. My Seaglide ran out of battery while I was gathering materials, so it ended up getting blown up by multiple crashfish. Fun times. Thankfully I survived the onslaught and gathered enough to build my first little base. I chose this area because it borders on multiple biomes, so it's a bit easier to gather decent materials, and it's close to my favourite Lost River entrance. I added some storage and a fabricator just to make the base a little bit more usable, and I then added a radio because it's far too much effort to swim back and forth to the life pod just to get messages. I then christened this base the Blood Base because I'm nothing if not dramatic for absolutely no reason. I then made my way to the mountain island, which I haven't done with just a Seaglide since the first time I played this game all those years ago. We then found the purple tablet, and I made sure to get a scan just in case I wanted to build one later. And there was no reason to scan the sky ray, but it was trapped in the cave and I felt that I needed, but it took a lot longer than I'm willing to admit or show in this video. I found the teleporter but forgot that I need to get an ion cube, so I had to leave and come back later. I then took a wrong turn on my way back and ended up in a fight with a crab, which I feel like I'm sure I would have won if I'd stayed and fought the whole thing to the death, but the hitboxes are so terrible. I probably would have lost half my health just killing this one thing. I then used the newfound tablet to get inside the alien building. It turns out that you can't turn this thing off when you're infected, so it's good to know that I'm infected. They did stab me through the arm. I feel like with the advanced technology of this alien species, they probably didn't need a 5-inch needle going straight through to the bone. You know? I opened the teleporter back in the cave that I found earlier and was sucked into oblivion. After finding myself on a new floating island, I was able to scan the multi-purpose room, very useful, the observatory, less useful but still really cool, and the indoor grow bed, probably one of the most useful blueprints you can get in the game. Back at my base, I found out that I am being hunted, which is incredibly scary. I did plant some of the plants that I brought back from the island, just so I have a nice source of food and drink for the rest of the playthrough. I'm not a fan of hunting down the fish all the time, it gets quite boring. We also built the exterior grow bed so I could grow some good utility plants, like the gel sacks. The Sunbeam got back in touch and felt bad for being dicks the first time around, as they should. They were absolute assholes to me.
I didn't know how bad. How many of you? I didn't know.
At this point, chat told me I should build an air bladder, so I did, and I very much owe them a debt because of how amazing this item is. I never used it previously because I thought it was naff. Next was time for the laser cutter on our crafting journey, and I needed to test the equipment, absolutely necessary to test the air bladder just in case. On my travels, I found a warper in an open area and figured that this was the dunes and that I didn't want to die, so I just carried on swimming. I also found the northern blood kelp biome and a crab squid, which they do look awesome. Their design is great. Also on my travels, I found my first time capsule. I only got water, which is helpful, but honestly, anything else would have probably been better. The hallucinations began, and a weird alien asked me what I am. I don't know, babe. Ask again later, okay? It was time to start prepping another base to visit the Degassi base in the Mushroom Forest. I started by building a platform for a solar panel. We then headed down to put some power transmitters en route to where the base was going to go. And then we built our little basic base with a little bit of storage. Chat then told me about a direct route down to the base, but it had radiation blocking and I couldn't go down there without the radiation suit. I guess that means it's time to build the radiation suit. After collecting the materials, it was time to head to the Degassi base and start some scans. We did see a crab snake on the way down and went for the most important item to scan, the water filter. Unfortunately, the crab snake didn't like this too much and tried to shove us out the way. After enough time, we did get the scan and we didn't actually get eaten by the crab snake, so that's great. After realizing that I didn't have enough oxygen to really go around the base and search, I decided to build a little base. So first I built some power, and then I built just a little corridor base to replenish my oxygen. I did then, unfortunately, die to poisoning by these jellyfish creatures, so I'm very glad this is not a permadeath run or I would be severely embarrassed. Once I returned to the base, I got the message about the sunbeam, and our timer started. I planted a bit more of the utility garden with some more useful plants. I even added a third grow bed just for some more mushrooms. Batteries are going to be very important for this run. I then went to get some scans and found the single most important item, the battery charger. For a Seaglide only run, this is an incredibly important item. I did have a little bit of trouble placing it in the base though. I then decided to expand my base with a multi-purpose room to avoid this in the future. I then built the grow bed inside and planted some bulbo trees because they are the best source of food and water in the game in my opinion. It was now time to get picked up by the sunbeam. A short game, I give it a 10 out of 10, but turns out I was actually a little bit hasty. And I guess that's karma for thinking that we just ran out of oil or whatever, and we didn't, it just got blown up, so serves you right. But I guess we still have to go and survive on this island, so back we go. I figured that since I was doing yet another crafting run, it would be smart to build a scanner room. Using the camera, I saw a warper attack an innocent fish, so I decided to ram him in the head for revenge. I was also able to find the modification station fragments, which I immediately built for this run because it's an absolute must. I then made the high capacity oxygen tank, which gives me 225 seconds of oxygen, which is huge considering I don't have a vehicle to breathe in. I also made the ultra glide fins because, again, Seaglide run, lots of kicking going on. I was able to get the last two items on my list crafted, which are the reinforced dive suit and the propulsion cannon, even though I couldn't use the reinforced dive suit just yet. Since I really wanted to wear the reinforced dive suit, I decided to head to the Aurora, and thankfully there was no Reapers on the way, so I didn't get my face eaten. I scanned the prawn suits just because I can't use them, but it just feels wrong to not scan them. I then got the Seamoth depth upgrade for some reason. I also picked up the Cyclops upgrade, which I really don't know why I did, but we did seal breach number 1. And breach number 2. And breach number 3. And breach number... No, I'm not going to do this for every single breach, don't worry. After a few minutes of repairing breaches, a few bleeders trying to suck me dry, I was able to repair all breaches and no longer needed the radiation suit. I then grabbed another upgrade on my way out. I really don't know why I have an obsession with picking these things up. I did remember to grab the Aurora model and the Neptune rocket schematic so I could eventually leave this place. I was nervous to dive into the Reaper-infested water, but when I did, I saw the shadow in the distance and decided, nope, I need to get out of here immediately. I attempted to decorate my base with the items I found on the Aurora and instead fell asleep, which is surprisingly something that's happened to me before. After a very lovely nap, I did actually finish decorating my room. It was then time to head down to the Lost River for the first time, and since I had no protection but a reinforced dive suit, I decided to do the Bloodkelp Trench route as there are no Leviathans, and you're literally at the Lost River in just a few minutes. I panic built my first Lost River base and used a single boomerang for power so I didn't suffocate. I then christened this base the Lost River Base 1, knowing that I would definitely need multiple bases down here. I also made an exterior grow bed for gel sacks so that I could put them in the bioreactor because I'm not going around catching fish down here. It was then time to get straight on with the next base. I'm here to progress the story, not hang around this poisonous green cave. I swiftly built my next base in the best biome of the game, next to the big glowing tree. On my way back to Lost River Base 1, the ghost ray did do a little dance for me, which I thought was adorable. I got the beacon that I forgot to bring the first time and called this Tree Case, and then corrected it to base, because spelling is apparently not my strong suit. Back on the surface, I needed some titanium, so I searched for metal salvage with the scanner room, and then I lost power. Solar panels are not great at night. I did try to sleep through the power cut and hope that I didn't suffocate in my sleep, which apparently you don't, so I learned something new on this playthrough. Unfortunately, I also learned that if you leave your game running while you answer a phone call on stream, then you drown. Who would have thought? After dying via poison and drowning, I decided, let's try burning myself to death. But I was actually able to get the thermal plant built. I then built a little corridor for oxygen next to the sunken facility so I could explore it safely. And while I was adding some power transmitters to power the base, I was rudely interrupted by a warper who seemingly needed some attention. And then when I went on to build the second power transmitter, I was interrupted by a very grabby river prowler. This needs hazard pay. I then built myself a backup high-capacity O2 tank, as chat suggested that this would avoid me drowning in the future. I was able to use this little oxygen base I had just built to get data from the sunken facility, while still being stalked by my cliggy warper friend. Now it was time to go to the Degassi base in the Grand Reef, so I built my little oxygen pocket base and used a single boomerang to power it again. Exploring the Degassi base, I saw a little crab squid outside, which looked rather creepy, but then a warper teleported me outside the base while I was mid-animation, which is rather rude. We got back inside and I took the tablet, and more importantly the cuttlefish egg. On my way to build yet another base, this time in the lava zone, I was teleported not once but twice by the same warper, who apparently has really good aim. I then built another little oxygen pocket in the lava zone, ready to take on the sea dragon Leviathan. I named this base the Lava Zone Entrance, which I spelt wrong as I was panicking about getting a fireball in the face, so yeah, spelling is really not my forte. We then went and found, rather quickly, I might add, the entrance to the lava castle. I had my usual hallucinations about aliens as I descended into the castle. I did get the ion battery blueprints, as that would save me a lot of recharging batteries for my Seaglide. I needed to go back into the Lost River again and got teleported by seemingly that same warper. That dude really has it out for me. Back down into the active lava zone this time, it was time to build yet another mini oxygen base. But I started hallucinating at the same time, so it made it a little bit harder than it should have been. And to add injury to insult in this circumstance, the lava lizard also tried to eat me. Eventually, though, we did actually get the base built, which was great. I got inside the main containment facility, but unfortunately I forgot the second blue tablet, so I couldn't actually go any further than this. But to ensure that I was able to get back into the active lava zone, I made a hole beacon. Crafting the blue tablet to open the last locked door, I decided to go on a little bit of an exploration to find the Lost River cache for some ion cubes, as I had none left. I unfortunately found a ghost leviathan, so ran away as quickly as I could. I then ran into another ghost leviathan. I really should have just stayed in the base. There was a third ghost leviathan, but I think this might have just been the same leviathan as the last leviathan I saw. But eventually, after being scared 3 times, I did find the cache. I grabbed each of the ion cubes and the data so I could open all the portals I needed. It was now time to enter the Sea Emperor's home. Turns out this was the alien thing that was giving me the hallucinations, which were actually telepathic communications. It's nice to put a face to a hallucination. She does talk a lot though, but I guess it has been 1,000 years since she's had a conversation, so I understand. The Emperor then blew a hole for me, and I put a cube inside. Yes, that sounds terrible. It's now time to get the materials for the hatching enzyme, and eventually I got the fungal spore. Took a while. I was then able to get the ghost weed seed, followed by the eye stalk seed, and the bulb bush seed. I did have to go all the way back to the Sea Emperor's home to get the sea crown seed, because I couldn't find it out in the wild anywhere else. Back to my base, I made the enzyme needed to hatch my babies. Why do they have to make it white though? I hatched my children, and a bone shark got a bit close for my liking. I swear to God, these guys are not as passive as my PDA has led me to believe. The Sea Emperor was just waiting for her babies to be born before she left this world. This was so sad the first time I played this game. I then decided to stick my hand in baby vomit, because when on an alien planet, why not? And then it grew on me and spread. It was absolutely vile, but it did cure me of my disease, so I guess it's okay. Since I was cured and I cured the entire planet, I guess it's time to go home. I made the mobile vehicle bay, since I had no other use for it before, and unfortunately the first location I chose was for some reason too shallow. I moved the mobile vehicle bay back to my blood-based topside and built the Neptune rocket platform there. I did build the rocket platform and actually sat underneath it while it was constructing to see if it would squish me. Unfortunately, I was a bit too deep to test it properly. I then built the Neptune gantry, followed by the Neptune boosters. And then now it was time to build the fuel reserves, but I didn't have enough kyanite, so I had to make a trip all the way back to the lava castle. But eventually I was able to make the fuel reserves. Unfortunately, I need the Cyclops shield generator, which needs to be built inside the Cyclops fabricator. This means that I kind of failed the Seaglide only run, but not really, since I never used the Cyclops to travel, I just needed its fabricator abilities. I also wanted to see if building it next to the rocket would crash, and they kind of did. They bumped into each other, which was kind of cool. I finally got the required shield generator, and then I was able to build the cockpit. I initially called the rocket the Seaglide, but then chat said to call it Seaglide Prime, so I did, because it kind of does look like a huge Seaglide. Chat then also asked me to take a detour and have a look at one of the juvenile emperors, so I did, and I was able to say hi to one, and I took some photos. Back to the Neptune rocket, it was time to start preparations for launch. First was the communications array, then the auxiliary power unit, followed by the hydraulic system. Next was life support, which is kind of important. Then the main CPU. I did set my time capsule to contain my wonderful Seaglide, with the ion battery inside, and the lovely picture of my child, the Emperor Leviathan, as well as a message that says, "All hail the Seaglide." Turns out I'm a bit of an idiot, and I didn't actually turn off the giant gun. I took my Seaglide out of the time capsule and went all the way back to the other side of the map to turn off the damn gun. After doing so, I was finally able to leave. And we did it! We have completed the game with only using a Seaglide for transport. I do like the rocket takeoff, it is kind of funny. The first time I genuinely thought they were going to knock us out again like they did at the start of the game, but thankfully they don't, we do get to see this entire cutscene. This run was honestly not as bad as it could have been. Making all the tiny bases everywhere made exploration reasonably easy, and with the addition of the high capacity O2 tank and ultraglide fins, I could get around quite far without much difficulty. The ending conversation between you and the Emperor Leviathan is actually so incredibly sweet that I almost cried the first time.
What is a wave without the ocean? A beginning without an end. They are different, but they go together. Now you go among the stars, and I fall among the sand. We are different.
But yeah, that's the game, so thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this run. I'm definitely doing more Subnautica runs in the future, so I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!